So we have discussed the idea of changing of bodies, whereas the self is the constant witness. In verse 13 of chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. So here the idea we discussed is, yeah, is that we are the embodied, we are Dehi, inside a Deha. So the embodiment is changing. Which body are we caged in? That changes. The self always continues. So Sri Krishna is not telling this as a belief. He's telling this as something all of us can experience, right? It's available to experience for everyone. That the body of childhood is gone, yet the sense of I continues. You remember clearly yourself as a child. The body has changed, but that sense of I-ness continues. What is that sense of I-ness? It is the witnessing soul. So changing the vehicle does not change the self. This is this beautiful teaching of this very important verse of chapter 2, that you are experiencing this world through a vehicle, which is this body, the Deha. So the change in vehicle of experience does not imply destruction of the experiencer. There is drishta and there is drishya. So the vehicle of experience is changing, but the experiencer is not destroyed. So, this is very significant as we age, as somebody undergoes illness, retirement, even significant changes in social roles. When you know your identity as one of an experiencer and not the vehicle of experience, then you can experience it with steadiness. You can age with grace. You can experience change with grace and clarity. So we are not confined to the present body. That is what this is saying. And the wise are not bewildered by such a change. Okay, so let's move on. Let's look at verse 14. 1 second. Let me also pull it up here. Hmm. Okay, let's chant. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha agamapaino nityas tamstitikshva sabharata. So here the Lord is saying, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So here we see that after explaining, after explaining that yes, the identity is constant, but your experience may be pleasant or unpleasant. So you have to have a discipline in going through the dualities. Why? Because the dualities are temporary. That's the biggest principle. Yeah, because they are temporary, you don't need to make permanent commitments around it. So let us understand this verse properly. Matra sparsha. Matra means Matra sparsha means when our senses meet their objects. Senses and sense objects meeting is called matra sparsha. Okay. So that matra sparsha can lead to a sense experience. That experience can be pleasant or it can be painful. But this is the deep question. Where does that experience of pleasant or painful, sukha or dukkha, Where does that experience lie? Does that lie in the object? Yeah, do you think the experience of sukha and dukkha comes from the objects? How many of you feel so? And if not the objects, then where? So, first of all, Sri Krishna is presenting us in this section in chapter 2, Tattva. Please understand what is reality. And because if you go by your emotions, which are non-aligned to reality, you will, not reach a favorable destination. You will not be able to perform your dharma. So you're just speaking like a pandit. You are actually dejected. So we should not always look at, engage with the world just with ordinary worldly dealings, knowledge. We should engage with the world in tattva, in reality. And that is the purpose of Shastras to teach us what is tattva. So that when we are out engaging with the world, we are not going by our fleeting emotions. We are going by something that's real, that's deeper. So, first of all, what is Arjun's main doubt? That death is inevitable. If I engage in the war, the death of those I love and my death as well. So, his situation is one of fear out of impending death. And there is no cure for that fear except for wisdom. So Shri Krishna says, as we saw in the previous verse, nobody is dying, Arjun. What you're saying is just change of bodies. The Atma is constant. Dhira understands that there is a difference between the experiencer and the vehicle of experience. And we discussed that it seems that the body and soul are connected, but there is actually no connection. So Dhira can discern this, whereas Adhira, or one who doesn't have this wisdom, cannot make out this difference. So we are the seer, and we are always different from the scene. The scene is this world. Our experience is the scene. So what is changing is the experience, not the experience. This will again come in chapter 13, where Sri Krishna will answer Arjun's question. Yeah. Who is the Kshetra and Kshetragya? The Kshetra is the field of experience. Kshetragya is the experiencer. So, when you are at a place, you can count how many, when you're standing by the highway, you can count how many trucks are passing. But when you're in yourself in a vehicle, you really cannot measure how many are passing because everything is relative. So, Dhira means one who has a steady platform to observe. They are not observing from a relative place. So, this body, neither have we produced it, yeah, nor have we bought it. So, how are we laying our claim to it? Yeah, if you want to claim any object of this world, you either have to purchase it or you have to produce it. But we have not done that to this body. Maybe our parents can make that claim, but we ourselves cannot claim that this body is mine. Body is just like an instrument. What is an instrument supposed to do? An instrument or an equipment or a device is supposed to serve you. But it's so interesting that we are serving this instrument of the body. The body should serve us, the soul, but we are serving the body. Imagine somebody who gets a very expensive car or any expensive item. And we spend so much time caring, cleaning, just preserving them. So it is meant to serve us, but we end up serving it. Right from the time we wake up, yeah. How much time do we spend on our body? Are we meant to do that? Or is the body meant to serve us and the purpose of the soul? It's like we treat our body like a deity. What the whole day we are just doing deity worship. We are doing Deha worship. So therefore we have to, redirect it. What am I doing? So we can serve it directly by cleaning it, decorating it, or we can serve our body indirectly also by the occupation that we do. For a lot of people, occupation is just to maintain the body, and the goal of life is to indulge the body. So maintenance and indulgence of the body becomes the purpose of life. So then we end up serving our bodies our whole life. Whereas Sri Krishna says it is yantra rudha nimaya. It is just a vehicle, Arjun. It is a vehicle. In fact, it's a great vehicle. It's such a vehicle that using it, which is temporary, you can gain a result which is eternal. So it's the best vehicle, but it's not meant to be served by the soul. It is meant to serve the interest of the soul. Yeah. So Sri Krishna is saying that the body is changing, but the soul is not changing. Whenever you have to observe a change, don't you think the change always happens on the foundation of something that's constant? The sales have increased by 5%. Over what? Over last year. So you take a base, and over that base, something changes. So, what is that foundation? What is that base over which this body is changing? That base is the Atman. There can be no change without a substrate. Yeah. So, we basically have to learn that we should not end up serving our body, otherwise, we'll lament at the end. It is meant to be used for a higher purpose. That's the point. Otherwise, we'll be non-different from animals. We discussed this. Prabhupada says we'll become a civilization of two-legged animals. So why is Sri Krishna presenting this idea of the Dehi and the Deha? To help us understand who is the experiencer and what is the experience. So everything in our experience is changing. Okay, everything in our experience is ever changing except the Atman. And Atman includes both Jiva and Ishwar. Both are of the same nature of Atman. So except for Ishwar and Jiva, everything is constantly changing. So we have senses, you know, knowledge acquiring senses, working senses, five knowledge acquiring senses, five working senses, 10 senses, and the mind. So through these 11 senses, we experience the outer world. And that experience can be either favorable or unfavorable, pleasing or painful. And every experience has to be encountered through a specific sense. We cannot taste through our eyes, we have to taste through our tongue. So, now my question coming back to it is, where does the pleasure and pain reside? Hmm. What do you think? Sometimes you are experiencing pleasure, sometimes you are experiencing pain. Coming in touch with different objects, matra, sparsha, by sense contact. So, where is the pleasure and pain? Is it in the objects? Or if not in the objects, where is it?
It's maybe in the mind.
Okay, why is it in the mind?
Some memories
Why?
are samskaras, which have created conditioning of what that experience should mean, good or bad for us.
Okay, okay. So if it was in the objects, it should have been universal. The same object should have the same experience for everyone. But that's not true. In fact, even for us, the same object gives different experience. When it's summer, cold water is pleasing. And when it's winter, the same cold water is painful. Eh, when somebody offers you chapan bhog, you are very pleased. It's sukha. But before offering chapan bhog, if somebody brutally insults you, it's the same chapan bhog in front of you, but now you have no appetite. Now the same is painful. So the point I'm trying to make is that sukha and dukkha are not in the objects, they are in the state of mind. Yeah. So matra is objects, material objects, because they are measurable. Matra means measure. So sparsha means coming in touch with it. Coming in touch with objects through our senses gives us sukha or dukkha. So somebody can experience sukha through the same objects which somebody else can experience dukkha. So it is so simple, yet everyone misses the point that sukha and dukkha is not an object of this world that you can pick and give somebody. Yeah, somebody may have no possessions, but if they are treated well, they experience warm hospitality. That's sukha. So to come to this understanding and realization that, oh, this sukha is not in the object, it is in the environment. I can experience sukha through so many ways. I don't need to do sangraha. I can follow dharma. I can have good relationships, friendships. It can give me sukha. So people are unable to see this, that it is not the objects. So Arjun thought his relatives dying will give him unhappiness. But in reality, there is no dukkha in the relatives, in those, in their bodies. When does sukha or dukkha arise? I mean, there are so many people dying at any moment in the world. Do you experience the same level of dukkha for them as you would for someone you know? So, sukha and dukkha from an object arise only when you have an attachment for that object or person. Yeah. You have an attachment, so there is sukha. Then you fight with that person. Yeah, then that attachment is removed and then it turns into dukkha. So, what is happening? Your own attachment is creating a perception of sukha or dukkha. And it's so easy for that attachment to be shaken because this is a world of conflict. This is a world of constant change. So the point is that sukha is not coming from anywhere outside of us. A dhira, yeah, is a person who can understand all this. That I am the experiencer, I'm not the experience. Uh, Also, that the sukha is not coming from the object, it is coming from my own mental state and my own attachments. If I don't have attachment to something or someone, I'll not experience sukha or dukkha. Yeah, that is the irony of this world that the people who are the closest to you also have the potential to give you the highest amount of pain. Why? Because of the attachment. So, therefore, we should learn how to moderate. Affection is healthy, attachment is not. Attachment is the cause of dukkha. So, we should be connected to all, affectionate to all, but we should be attached to them. What's the difference? Attachment has a connotation of expectation. Affection is selfless. Yeah, I just give. Attachment means there is something I will gain from it, even if it's just pleasure, even if it's emotional pleasure. Even that is an attachment. I mean, it's not that we should end all attachment. The idea is we should be aware that every attachment is potentially going to lead us to dukkha. Yeah, so let us clearly understand that the sukha and dukkha is not from any person, object, place, time. Yeah, an anniversary, a promotion, a birthday. It's not external. Yeah, you feel happy when you're promoted, or when you get an achievement award, but after a while it becomes normal, and then you are hankering for the next promotion. So basically, we have to stop looking at this matra sparsha as the source of our happiness. We have to look internally. Yeah. So we discussed that sukha and dukkha arise from asakti. Hmm. And where does asakti come from? What are we attached to? That depends on our previous experience, as we discussed. Swabhava, our previous vasanas, impressions. So Swabhava is remembrance of our previous experience. So that creates asakti. I'm attached to some things, I'm averse to some things. And based on that attachment, that leads to sukha and dukkha. This is the whole chemistry of happiness from the Bhagavad Gita's point of view. So raga and dvesh are different states of mind. But the best part is Sri Krishna saying, agama apayino. They appear and they disappear. It's their very nature to come and go. Same person will love and sometimes will hate. It's not about us or it's not about them, it's about the nature of the world. Yeah. So it is the mind which creates that duality. It's the mind which creates that like dislike, not the object. Imagine if object starts changing its nature. If sugar is sweet in the morning and it is salty in the evening, it'll be so difficult to do any cooking. So the object doesn't change. The object's nature always remains the same. It is our state of mind which changes and creates duality. So what should we do if it's the nature of our mind? And if it is temporary, we should learn to tolerate. Because when we learn to tolerate, when we go beyond sukha and dukkha, what lies beyond sukha and dukkha is ananda. That is the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita, and it is also going to continue in the next verse 15. So, because we are so obsessed with sukha dukkha, we lose the opportunity to experience ananda. So, why are we having these attachments? Because we are in avidya. Avidya leads to asakti, asakti leads to raga and dvesh. Yeah, sukha and dukkha. So, how do we overcome this? Any matra sparsha, any contact with objects of this world is not going to be stable. It's going to result in duality. Why? Because the nature of this world is ever changing. So therefore, Sri Krishna is going to recommend in the further chapters that fix your mind on Bhagavan. Because it is only Bhagavan which is non-changing. And when you fix your mind on Bhagavan, then you will be able to rise beyond Sukha and Dukkha. You will be able to experience Ananda. So this is beautifully explained in this verse. I mean, this is the creator, the controller, Sri Krishna. If he wants, he can change the situation for Arjun. A lot of time when we are in trouble, we reach out to our friends or those who we know who are powerful, and they might change the circumstances for us. But Sri Krishna is not doing that. He's not saying, okay, I'll change your Swabhava, make you a Brahmana, or I'll make the battlefield disappear. He's doing none of that. He's telling Arjun, you have to tolerate. So it's the journey of the soul. The soul will not grow unless it realizes all these truths of life. And Sri Krishna has the power to change everything, but he is not going to change it. So the sensation that we experience, matra sparsha, is unstable. It is always changing and it is conditioned. And because it comes and goes, we should not take it too seriously. These states are temporary. The worst thing we can do is out of temporary emotions, if we make permanent decisions in a rage of anger or in a deeply hurtful state, if you make decisions which are permanent, that's very dangerous. That's exactly what Shri Krishna is saying here. These states are temporary. Do not allow them to control your long-term commitments. Titiksha. Titiksha is such a beautiful word. Tolerate. Yeah, what is tolerate? It is not saying you become, you allow abuse. No, it is also We have to be guarded. Titiksha basically means that discomfort should not come in the way of your dharma. That's it. Because the nature of this world is sometimes it's going to be pleasant, sometimes it's going to be unpleasant, sometimes it's going to be favorable, sometimes it's going to be unfavorable. These external, ever changing temporary states should not come in the way of your performance of dharma. Yeah, you should practice discipline. Discipline will lead you to dharma. Discipline will lead you overcome dualities because discipline is going to purify the heart and it is going to stop your how you feel in the moment to dictate your ethics. Yeah, it is very significant, but mostly everyone misses the point. So our temporary discomfort should not deviate our purpose. Our purpose is what we are working for. Dharma is what we are working for. Temporary discomfort should not come in the way of that. Anything that requires, if it's here in this purport, Srila Prabhupada gives an example of, in a family, somebody's cooking. If it's summer, if it's so hot, and in the kitchen it's even hotter, does it mean that you stop your duty of cooking? No, you still continue doing it. And if it's winter, do people stop taking bath in holy rivers? No, they don't. The point is, temporary discomfort should not override our purpose. We should be driven by purpose. Similarly, to fight is the religious principle of Kshatriyas. Although one has to fight with some friend or relative, for us the inconvenience might be hot or cold water. For Arjun, the inconvenience is that in the course of execution of his dharma, he might have to kill a few friends. One should not deviate from his prescribed duty. So you see, Sri Krishna is teaching Arjun to put duty above discomfort and divinity. Why? One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principle in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge. What is this sentence saying? This is a very powerful sentence. And Srila Prabhupada is encapsulating the whole principle of this chapter and also the first 6 chapters. That we have to do our karma. How? Kamya karma means doing what pleases us, doing what is my kamana, or driven by kama, lust, or selfishness. Shri Krishna is saying, no, don't go by what pleases you, go by what is right duty. So that is nishkam karma. So Shri Krishna is introducing the concept of nishkam karma, irrespective of how you feel, comfortable or uncomfortable, do your duty, do nishkam karma. Why should we do nishkam karma? Because it purifies the heart. If we avoid uncomfortable situations, we are also avoiding growth. Yeah, if somebody says it's too difficult to study, what do you say? Okay, give up studying. No, anything, exercise, study, caring for others, everything requires discipline because all of this, which is based on ethics, requires us to do something that's uncomfortable. But in that discomfort is also growth. So, what Prabhupada is saying here is when you follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles, what is that? Do your swadharma, nishkam karma. By doing that, you purify your heart and one rises up to the platform of knowledge. So this is the whole sutra of the first 6 chapters of Karma Yoga. Srila Prabhupada is beautifully putting it in one sentence. And if you stick to doing your sadharma, you will rise to the platform of jnana. So Nishkama Karma Yoga is like a hike. You go against gravity, you trek up. As you do it, your heart is being purified of anarthas, ahankara, avidya. And when you are purified, yeah, when that steep r- climb is over, then you reach a plateau of, when that climb is over, you reach the plateau of jnana. That is essentially what first six chapters are saying. Please note it down. And we'll keep coming back to this point. And this is Prabhupada writing it here himself. Okay. So this is a sutra given here clearly. Performance of Nishkama Karma Yoga, performance of Swadharma purifies the self, which leads us to the platform of Jnana. Why is it important to reach the platform of Jnana? Only from the platform of Jnana and Bhakti can one liberate oneself from Maya. If you want moksha or a relationship with Bhagwan, you can do that only from that platform of Jnana, which means the completion of our purification. So Prabhupada also indicates why Arjuna is addressed by different names. Kaunteya signifies that he has great blood relation. He is great lineage, both from his mother's side, and Bharata is his lineage from his father's side. So Arjun, you're supposed to have a great heritage, and a great heritage brings great responsibility. So you have a responsibility of proper discharge of your duties. You cannot avoid fighting. Okay, so therefore, if the weather is unfavorable, do you stop going to work? No, you still, you either put on a coat or you carry an umbrella. You still go to work. So it's useless discussing what you feel. But the point is our purpose so clear? Is our purpose so strong that we are ready to undergo pain for reaching that purpose? We are even ready to go beyond peace. Peace is not the goal of life. If we have something meaningful to do, like childbirth is painful, very painful. But is it purposeful? Very purposeful. Therefore, mothers choose to do it. So we don't optimize for peace or pleasure. We should optimize for purpose. The challenge is, do we have a purpose in our life which is so high that we are ready to undergo pain for it? Yeah, so that is how clear our understanding of dharma should be. Okay, any questions on this? So, uh, Arjun is saying, yeah, they may change bodies, but I am getting happiness with Drona and Bhishma in their current bodies. So, I'll feel very sad if they change their bodies, even if they get spiritual bodies or young bodies. So Shri Krishna says that is the way of life. You have to tolerate it. Hmm? Shita Ushna, hot and cold, Sukha and Dukha. They just Sukha and Dukha come like summer and winter seasons. They are anitya, temporary. Tam stitiksha sabharatam. So therefore tolerate them. Arjun. Agama Paina is important. Agama, coming, Apaina, going. So basically, they are temporary experiences. Anitya, that is the key word in this verse. These experiences which you are taking so seriously are anitya. They are temporary and they are uncertain. Yeah, now you should not decide if you have to do your duty or not based on these temporary, uncertain experiences. We have to learn to tolerate the incidental experience of suffering for the accomplishment of proper dharma. Is this clear? Tolerate the incidental experience of suffering for the accomplishment of proper dharma. Because when you do your dharma, from it comes jnana. From jnana comes liberation. So if you give up your duty considering it's too difficult, you will never grow. Okay, let's move to the next verse. Yam hina vyatayanti te purusham purusharshava samadukha sukha dhiram so amritatvaya kalpate. O best among men, Arjun, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So this is a continuity of the previous verse, that verse 14 is telling us to tolerate. It is giving us a method. And verse 15 is giving the result. What is the result of tolerating? What is the result of being in equilibrium? You attain liberation. Amrit Tattva. Amrit Tattva means Amrit, means going beyond Mrita, going beyond everything that's temporary. So that is the result or the gain of tolerance or equilibrium. So, what do you think happens when you are tolerating, when you practice equilibrium? Will you not experience pain and pleasure? No, you will continue to experience pain and pleasure, but the idea is those experience will not disturb your judgment and dharma and identity. Your identity is so clear, your judgment is so clear, you will be absolutely confident about performing your dharma. Will not be shaken by that. Does it make sense? The experiences will still come, but your identity is so clear, your dharma is so intense that you will not be deviated by those experiences. Yeah. So that is the meaning of approaching liberation. Amritatvaya kalpate. Sama sukha dukha dhiram. Again, the word dhira. Dhira is one who, by the power of wisdom, is able to see the true nature of things. Vyatayanti ete. So one has to not be disturbed by these momentary, temporary, uncertain experiences. Why? Because you have reached the level of understanding your true self, that I am the soul, I am the experiencer from verse 13. I am not this experience of pleasure and pain. Pleasure and pain lie in my mind. And I have to discipline my mind if I have to rise beyond duality and continue doing my duty so that I undergo purification and then attain liberation. So once we are clear about our identity as the soul, then it becomes easy to be in equilibrium. Yeah. We are not bound by the demands of matra sparsha. How many of us go decide things by feelings? Yeah. How are we feeling? So when we become a dhira, we'll not be a slave of the demands of matra sparsha. Does this remind you of any other words? Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam. Jiva vegam upasta vegam. Etan vegan yo vishayet dhiraha. So one who can control the urges, because these urges are also demands of contact with sense objects. So one who can tolerate, not be a slave of the demands of the mind and senses, they are called dhira. And they deserve, or they are going towards Amrit Tattva. Amrit Tattva means freedom from death. It is not just saying you will become emotionally strong, it is saying you will gain immortality. So you see how powerful emotional regulation can be? Emotional regulation based on spiritual realization can lead to liberation, deathlessness. Why? Because it is based on truth, because it is directed towards responsibility, so dharma. It is not just about how I feel. So the higher truth Bhagavad Gita is teaching here is decide based on truth, decide based on responsibility or duty, not the ever-changing experiences of this world. So you see what Sri Krishna beautifully does in verse 15? He introduces a new goal to Arjun, the goal of moksha. For most of the population, they don't even have such a goal. The entire goal of existence, as even a lot of philosophers, postulate, is maximize happiness, minimize pain. So everyone is still on the mental platform because we discussed the sukha and dukkha come from their states of mind. So people are still struggling at a mental state. Whereas here Sri Krishna is taking us to tattva. He's taking us to performing, convincing us to do our dharma and therefore go beyond our ahankar, avidya, asmita, raga, dvesh, abhinivesh, all of it. So this is very deep level transformation. Yeah, we are not chasing sukha. If somebody says, "Do you want to be happy?" You say, "Happiness is relative. Yeah, I want to be immortal. That's my goal. Have an immortal relationship, eternal relationship with the Creator. That's my goal." So here Srila Prabhupada says, one who is steady in his determination for self-realization, for the advanced stage of self-realization, can equally tolerate the onslaughts of distress and happiness. So like we discussed, to tolerate, you need to have a higher purpose. So let our purpose become so intense that we are able to tolerate these dualities. And one who is completely, the fourth stage of life, sannyas, is a painstaking situation. Why? Because the bodily experience for a sannyasi is painful at every level. But one who adopts the sannyas order of life in spite of all difficulties is able to make their life perfect. One might have to put oneself in situations which are difficult for the body, difficult for the mind, distance ourselves from relationships of this world, which is even difficult for the mind and emotionally again. But if one is able to tolerate such difficulties, surely their path to spiritual realization is complete. So basically, there is no pain, no gain. So if you are excited about spiritual realization, please know it comes at a price of tolerance, of experiencing trouble at the level of body and mind. So sense indulgence and self-realization go ill together. So Arjun is also, faced with this challenge. He is advised to persevere, even if it is difficult to fight with his family members or beloved persons. Similarly, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas at the age of 24. Yeah, he had a young wife and an old mother. But to serve dharma for a higher cause, based on the understanding of one's true self, he still, and out of compassion for all of us, he did undertake this austerity of accepting sannyas. So basically, if we have a higher cause, from that higher cause, we can get steadiness. Steadiness in the middle of experiences of this world, which are ever changing. So if you want to be steady, find a higher purpose. That is the way of achieving liberation from material bondage. Okay, let's move to the next verse. Again, very beautiful verse. नासतो विद्यते भावो नाभावो विद्यते सतः उभयोरपि दृष्टवन्तस्तु अन्योस्तत्त्वदर्शिभिः. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance. And of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. So, very beautiful. Two states are distinguished. There are two modes of existence, Sat and Asat. So, जो असत है, असतो न विद्यते भावो. भाव मीन्स कंटिन्यूटी और एंड्योरेंस. जो असत है वो कभी एंड्योर नहीं करेगा. इट विल नॉट सस्टेन. एंड सत विद्यते अभाव. जो सत है, it will always experience the state of no change. So that which is temporary is that cannot be preserved, and that which is eternal never goes through any destruction. So very beautifully, two states are clearly distinguished. Ubhayor api drishto antas. Ubhayor means the two. By deeply studying the nature of the two, which two? Sat and Asat. Api drishto. Drishto means darshan. Darshan, very loosely we translate it into philosophy in English, but darshan is not philosophy, it's realization of the truth. Yeah, like actually seeing it. It's an experience of the truth so that you can immediately apply it. So darshan, those who have darshan of Sat and Asat, by studying the nature of the two, they have come to this conclusion that of the non-existent, of the Asat, there is no endurance, and of the Sat, there is no change. So what is there to lament? So the body is temporary, it is always changing, it has no permanent state. So the body is Asat, whereas the self is Sat. Yeah. And it never goes into a stage of non-existence. Abhava. वो आत्मा अभाव के स्थिति में कभी नहीं जा सकती. That is the meaning of na bhavo vidyate. Na abhava. Not changing is the nature of Sat. So very beautifully, Shri Krishna is presenting that Arjun, you are confused because you are looking at temporary properties of the self. When does confusion arise? When temporary properties are given to the eternal self, or when body's changing demands, everything about the body changes, our connections, our status, our age. So when the body's changing nature is treated as a measure of value, that is what causes confusion. And when temporary properties are attributed to the soul, that causes confusion. Do you see? To look at Sat as Asat, to take Sat to be Asat and Asat to be Sat, that is what causes confusion and fear. But if we are able to distinguish, this is Sat and this is Asat. Yeah, body is Asat. I don't have to treat anything related to my body as something of real value. My possessions, my influence, my health. That is good, but it is not a measure of my success in life. That is how we treat Asat as Asat. And how do we treat Sat as Sat? When you say, oh, I am actually the soul beyond the body and mind. I am permanent. Let me invest in activities which are favorable for my identity of being the soul. That is how you overcome this confusion. So Shri Krishna is defining that, creating a distinction between the two. That is the meaning of Tattvadarshi. So when you reach this stage of discernment, you're able to see Sat as Sat and you're able to see Asat as Asat. From that platform of Jnana, can you perform Karma Yoga? only then can you not be obsessed with the fruits of your work. And only at that level can you not have an identity of the doer or ego. So we say that we should go beyond ego of being the doer. We should go beyond greed for the fruits of our work. It cannot just be practice like, oh, let's do it today. We have to be situated at this level of discernment when we actually know what is Sat and Asat. Yeah, when we are actually clear about our purpose. So beautifully, these verses teach us to distinguish between permanence and impermanence. Yeah, so body and everything about the body is a result of past karma, and karma is constantly changing reactions and actions and reactions. So actions and reaction cause changes at the level of the body. That's how we go through different stages of the body, as taught to us in verse 30. But the spirit soul exists permanently, remaining the same despite all changes of the body and the mind. Yeah. By nature, the body is ever changing and the soul is eternal. In the Vishnu Puran, it is stated that Vishnu and his abodes all have self illuminated spiritual existence. Existent and non existent refer only to spirit and matter. So anything that is spiritual, which includes Bhagwan, the realm of Bhagwan, the Leelas of Bhagwan, and also the Jiva, all of that is Sat. They are real and they are eternal. And everything that is Asat, which is our body, mind, which is this material world, all of that is Asat. It is constantly changing. Okay. So Sri Krishna is beginning to instruct Arjun by this is the first lesson. So, and this is a lesson for all of us also who are bewildered by the influence of ignorance. So far in life, we have lived based on our misperception. We were in ignorance and therefore we were treating Asat to be Sat. We were treating Asat to be of highest value. And we had completely neglected Sat. We were treating our feelings as everything. Yeah. And we were thinking that I am the experience. Basically, we have been living our lives wrong so far. So, this is the first lesson, Sambandha Gyan. Who are you? What is your connection with your source? So, avidya can be removed by vidya, and vidya means jnana or Sambandha Gyan. That is the first step to help us overcome confusion and fear and lamentation. Sambandha Gyan, which is the eternal relationship between the worshipper and the worshipable. And we come to an understanding that I am a part and parcel of Krishna. I am eternal. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. Yeah. And as a part, I should serve the whole. So the eternal relationship between the worshipper and the worshipped, that is Samatya. One can understand the nature of the Supreme by thorough study of oneself. This is also very deep. Sutra Prabhupada is just, embedding in one of his sentences. So if we don't know the sutra, we'll just read it as another sentence in English. First comes self-realization. And when you understand the attributes of the self, then by extrapolating it, then you understand, oh, if this is the Atma, then we can understand the Paramatma, the Supreme Atma. Or if I'm the Purusha, we can understand the Purushottama, the best of the Purushas. So first comes self-realization, and from there comes God realization. Again, we'll use this understanding in our discussion in the first 6 chapters. The difference between oneself and the Supreme Being understood as the relationship between part and whole. In the Vedanta Sutra as well as in Srimad Bhagavatam, The Supreme has been accepted as the origin of all emanations. This we are going to discuss in Bhagavatam also today. And all emanations are experienced by superior and inferior natural sequences. So basically, Prabhupada is saying that there is one cause, and that cause can have effects, and effects can be higher or lower. The jivas are higher, and Prakriti is lower. But irrespective of that, the emanations are experienced by superior and inferior natural sequences. The living entities belong to the superior nature. This is going to be discussed in 7th chapter. But there is no difference between the energy and energetic. We might be superior than Prakriti, but from a bigger point of view, Prakriti and Jeev both are energies. We can, and Krishna is the energetic. So the energetic is accepted as the supreme, and the energy, Jiva and Prakriti both are accepted as subordinate. So therefore, the living entity is always subordinate to the Supreme Lord, as is the case of master and servant. Therefore, the identity of a das is an eternal identity. Such clear knowledge is impossible to understand under the spell of ignorance. And to drive away such ignorance, the Lord teaches the Bhagavad Gita for the enlightenment of all living entities for all time. Yeah, so Sri Prabhupada is making the distinction between Anu and Vibhu. We are Anu, but Krishna is Vibhu. He's all powerful. So that is the meaning of overcoming avidya. When we overcome avidya, we clearly understand our position as Anu and Krishna's position as Vibhu. That is the meaning of overcoming avidya. So basically, we are trying to understand the difference between permanence and impermanence. That is possible by Vidya or Sambandha Gyan. Therefore, Sri Krishna is teaching Tattva to us in verses of chapter 2. Okay, any questions so far? It's very beautiful and also simple to understand. Let's move to the next verse then. Okay, let's just continue and then come to discussion. Verse 17 says, Avinashi tu tadviddhi yena sarvam idam tatam vinasham avyayasyasya na kaschit kartumarhati. That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. So now Shri Krishna is saying, you are a soul within a deha, you are the dehi. And a symptom of that dehi is consciousness, chitta. So we are the self, the conscious self, right? That is what is the Atman. Atman is the conscious self. What is the proof of existence of Atman? The proof of existence of the soul is its effect, which is consciousness, Chetana. When we pinch our arm, do you feel pain? Yes. How do you feel pain? Because the soul present in your body is spreading through consciousness throughout your body. Therefore, we can experience pain and pleasure. So the way consciousness spreads throughout our body is proof of the existence of the Atma. Yeah, if the soul leaves the body, that body cannot experience any pain or pleasure. The soul is so minute, yet it's also so potent that its symptom, what is the symptom of the soul? Consciousness. The soul may be minute, but its symptom, consciousness, is pervading throughout the body. Like a small active ingredient of a medicine. You just eat 1 milligram of a medicine, but then it cures your whole body. So, avyaya here means that the self is not it does not undergo any there's no diminution in the self because of bodily changes. Yeah. So we are the experience, we are the conscious self. We are not reducible to our experiences or the objects that we experience. Avinashi, we are imperishable, by which the whole body is pervaded. Sarvam idam tatam, that is avinashi. We are avyayasya. So this was more clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. So Srila Prabhupada gives an elaborate purport that we are conscious of the pains and pleasures of the body in part and as a whole. But if somebody is sitting next to you, are you conscious of the pains and pleasures in their body? If a thorn has pricked their feet, will you be aware? No, so they'll have to tell you, oh, I'm feeling pain. I'm feeling a painful sensation. What does that indicate? That they have a separate Atma. You see how we can, just by tarka, just by logic and experience, we can come to the understanding and acceptance of a soul. That I experience because the Chetana has spread throughout my body, but someone else's Chetana is not in my reach. That means their Chetana is coming from their Atma. So that means they are different Atmas. So Srila Prabhupada says here, each and every body is the embodiment of an individual soul. So there is a soul and there is this embodiment. You give a body to that. So it's like a driver getting into a car. Sorry. And the symptom of the soul's presence is perceived as individual consciousness. And how small is the soul? It's so small that you cannot measure it. For example, just for the sake of comparison, if you take the tip of your hair and cut it into 100 parts, and one such part you again cut into 100 parts, that may come close to the size of the soul. Basically, it is subtle, it is infinitesimal, it is atomic. Basically, let's call the soul a spiritual atom. It's smaller than material atoms because the material atoms you can still measure, but the soul you cannot measure. This very small spiritual spark is the basic principle of material body, and its influence is spread all over the body as the influence of the active principle of some medicine spreads throughout the body. Prabhupada, from his pharmacy background, uses that example. The current of the spirit soul is felt all over the body as consciousness. Again, very good example to look at it as electrical energy. That is consciousness. So any layman can understand that the material body minus consciousness is dead, a dead body. And whatever you do materially, you cannot revive that dead body because the consciousness is not there, because the spiritual atom is not there anymore. So consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination. Whatever you might do, you might perform experiments, bring any amount of elements into combination, but that will not ever lead to consciousness. Consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but due to the spirit soul. So the principle that Srila Prabhupada established out of this is life comes from light. Life can never come from matter. You can try any material combination of chemicals or elements. That is never going to result into consciousness. I mean, as today we're trying to understand what consciousness is. That itself has become so difficult for us. Then to come to understanding what causes consciousness, that is the next challenge for science, modern science to solve. But through Bhagavad Gita, we can clearly see consciousness is not gonna result from any material combination. So consciousness is not reducible to matter, and consciousness can also not result from matter. That's the point. So the soul, we discussed, soul is carried in prana. It is floating in 5 kinds of air, pranavayu. It is situated in the heart and spreads its influence all over the body. When the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. So now we are coming to Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga means the soul is floating in different kinds of pranavayu. Now you, by the practice, by regulating how you breathe, measuring the outward breath, holding, measuring the inward breath. Basically, you are regulating the prana. And by regulating and purifying the prana, you can increase the influence of Atma, the soul. The Hatha Yoga system is meant for controlling the 5 kinds of air, encircling the pure soul by different kinds of sitting postures. So the purpose of Hatha Yoga is spiritual. It is not for any material profit, not for health, not for looks. Hatha Yoga is meant for liberation. You try to liberate the minute soul from its entanglement in matter. That is the purpose of Hatha Yoga. But now we have made it, the popularized modern version of Hatha Yoga is just the postural yoga. Whereas Prabhupada says Hatha Yoga has nothing to do with posture. It is performed for the purpose of liberation. So the nature, the Atma as an atomic soul is admitted in all Vedic literatures. And it is also actually felt in the practical experience of any sane man. If you are very reasonable and rational and you go by logic and experience, still you can come to accept Atma. That's what we are discussing. Scriptures present Atma by Tarka, not by Shabda. It's not saying accept Atma because Vyasdev says you are an Atma. I am telling you how, in your own experience, you can come to the conclusion that you are an Atma. Only an insane man can think of this atomic soul as all pervading Vishnu Tattva. So there is one atomic Anu, and then there is the source of all atomic souls, which is Paramatma. So only one who is insane can confuse the part for the whole, can confuse the Jiva for the Ishwar. So the measurement of the atomic soul is beyond the power of appreciation of material scientists. And some of them foolishly assert that there is no soul. It's because they cannot reach it. Yeah. We have discussed what is the dharma of a scientist is to find the material cause for everything. So in trying to find cause effect, they have reached certain causes. They have come to the level of atoms and forces, yeah, whatever they call it. But they have not been able to reduce it below that. That okay, what beyond those atoms and forces? So they say we cannot find it, therefore it doesn't exist. Oh, your methods have not been able to discover it, but doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Yeah. The individual atomic soul is definitely there in the heart along with the super soul. So Prabhupada gives, explains scientifically everything is same. Your red blood cells, which carry oxygen from the lungs, yeah, they are also gathering energy from the soul. When the soul passes away, the red blood cells are still there. Why is there no oxygen then? So medical science accepts the importance of red corpuscle cells, but it cannot ascertain that the source of energy is the soul. Yeah. Modern science, however, does admit that the heart is the seat of all energies of the body. So, yeah, they have not been able to locate it. Where is consciousness? If consciousness is in the atoms, then means it is at a part and it is not at other parts. So there is a problem in locating consciousness also. And if it's you locate it in something, then is it not further divisible? But the very principle of consciousness is that it is indivisible. So there are many problems for modern science to solve in terms of defining consciousness. So they're like the molecules of the sun. In the sunshine, you might see, so many small particles of sunshine. We are like those atomic particles of sunshine. And Krishna is like the sun, from, from whom all the rays of sunshine are emerging. So Krishna is Prabha. Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Dadanda Koti. So Krishna is the Prabha. He's the superior energy. So basically, whether you follow science or you follow Vedas, nobody can deny the existence of soul or consciousness. The science of the soul is explicitly described in the Bhagavad Gita by the personality of Godhead himself. Okay, so let us see here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I have one doubt, Prabhu.
Yes, please.
Prabhuji, I have one doubt that suppose we got some fracture or something, so there is some healing process going on in our body.
Right.
So is it just by the uh, action of material things or by consciousness?
This better? Sorry, can you repeat?
Yes, Prabhuji. And is it the only is it the healing process is being done by the combination of material things, or it by the consciousness that is actually healing the part?
Yeah, it is the source of that healing power also comes from the soul. I mean, no, Prabhupada said that red blood corpuscle cells have the capacity to carry oxygen and thus rejuvenate all parts of the body. Where do they get their capacity to carry oxygen? From the soul. Similarly, if white blood corpuscles cells have the ability to heal, where do they get that energy to heal? From the soul. So, in all cases, the soul is the source of energy for all physiological functions. That is the
So
point.
actually, what is actually physicians or what are the doctors doing the treatment? They're just putting the things
Mhm.
in their place. Actually,
Exactly.
the
Exactly.
actual healing is done by the soul consciousness and its energies.
Right. Yes, that's
Thank you,
true.
Prabhupada.
Therefore, there's another verse in Bhagavatam. Antrasya eneha sharanam pitaro narsimha. Is it the medicine which is curing? Because the medicine is able to show its effect on some people and not on other people. Is it the physician who cures? Because the physician can save some lives and save other lives. So this is Prahlad Maharaj saying it is Lord Narasimha, it is you who are, the saving grace. It's not the doctor or it's not the medicine, it's the mercy of the Lord. So we have to learn to see beyond the material causes. That is what is spiritual science. Material science stops at finding the material causes of everything. But spiritual science goes beyond finding material cause. Spiritual science says, let us find a spiritual cause. Let us find a transcendental cause. Krishna, the cause, the cause of all causes. That is where your quest for searching the cause will conclude.
Thank you, brother. Because I got recently my leg got fractured, so it is in a healing process. So
Mhm.
I got this doctor. So,
Yeah. You continue to take the prescription, but your
yes, yes,
faith
thank you.
should be the power of that medicine to act is coming from Krishna. Yeah, we are discussing that. And Krishna is the cause of everything. We'll see in in 10. Krishna is the active principle in all phenomena. So it is Krishna only through his expansion as Paramatma, which is bringing everything alive. So we take the medicine, but our faith is in Krishna more than in the medicine itself.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Oh,
Can I ask some doubts regarding like what we have
yes, yes.
studied? Yeah, like
Please.
my first question is like in 14. So we have discussed about the following rules and regulations of religious principles, and that you have quoted as a swadharma. So my question is like, as we take this material body, we have some material duties and the spiritual duties also. So what this swadharma means, like, is it like material duties or like spiritual duties? That I wanted to know, Prabhuji.
Sure. We have not, still entered that. We are still discussing identity. Remember,
Okay.
after having a clear understanding of identity, we'll discuss work. That is karma. So let's, in this chapter, understand Atman. Starting from chapter 3, we'll understand karma. What is Swadharma? Yeah. So that comes later. We'll, keep your question when we come to that chapter. So now
Okay.
just focus on understanding identity. From identity, everything else will follow.
Okay. Yeah, and the next question is like, as we know, like we are not this body, we are the soul. So we have soul and super soul also with us. So my question
Yeah.
is like, soul soul is with me and soul is with another living entity also. So each and every living entity, this soul is different, uh, and also Paramatma is different. Prabhuji, got my question,
Yeah.
Prabhuji? Like, I have one
Yeah.
soul and another person has another soul. I have one Paramatma, another person has one Paramatma. So these all the souls are different in each and every living entity, and also Paramatma also different. Paramatma is the same in each and every living entity.
Yeah. Like we discussed, eternal individuality and eternal plurality. So if we are all given serial numbers, you will remain soul number 5 to 6, but Paramatma will only remain serial number 1. Paramatma has the ability to be present with everyone simultaneously. That's why those who are self-realized, they can understand the heart of someone else because the Paramatma in their heart is communicating to the Paramatma in the heart of a guru that what is this person feeling. So Paramatma is the same. Paramatma doesn't have different individuality. It is the jivas who have different individualities.
Okay.
So we are always eternal individual, whereas Paramatma is always the one. He has the power to be all pervading. That is the Paramatma feature, the Kshirodakshai Vishnu. So he's present in your heart as Kshirodakshai Vishnu. He's present in my heart as Kshirodakshai Vishnu. He's the same.
Okay. And another question is, Prabhuji, like when the soul leaves, we call that as a death. So, like, and when I was hearing from Prabhupada, so Prabhupada says that intelligence, false ego, and then mind also. These three things also carry with the soul. So, uh,
Yeah.
is these things will? My question is, these things will be with the soul, or like, uh, are with the super soul, Prabhuji?
With the soul. So the soul and the subtle body uh, move to the next gross body. Depending on our karma, according to our past karma, we got a certain body for a certain time. When that karma is fructified, then our past karma then creates another body for us to take for a certain time period. So the gross body will keep changing, but the soul and the subtle body will keep moving from one gross body to another. So till the time you purify, you undergo the pure process of sadhana to purify your subtle body, you will carry the same contaminated subtle body in future gross bodies. And if you start the process of purification, that will continue, that will stay with you even if you take a new gross body. That is why it says Neha Vikramanashasti. So this is spiritual, that if we start sadhana, Shravanam Kirtanam, they are going to create lasting impact. They are going to purify the subtle body forever. So yeah, the subtle body and the soul move from one gross body to another.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, thank you for the wonderful class, Prabhuji. Really, like now, I read Bhagavad Gita for 2 times, but I didn't got that relishment. So now, like, I'm feeling like so connected, so relation, like so eager to read. Also, really, thank you so much, Prabhuji. It's such a wonderful opportunity to hear from you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
And also to apply it. Aren't you excited to see the world with this new vision and how it is going to, take you beyond all your worries and confusion? So yeah, we have to be grateful to, first of all, Sri Krishna, and then to our acharyas who presented this to us. Yes, Mataji, you have a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in page number 87, first paragraph, it's mentioned that when the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. So these 5 kinds of material air, does it comes under the subtle body? And I did not get this statement.
Subtle body is different, prana is different. Think of subtle body as a software. Yeah, like in a plane, how do you control a plane? By the autopilot. There is a flight director. So the subtle body is actually what is controlling the gross body. What I eat is what my mind tells me to eat. So the software is more powerful. It said that the mind is the director of the senses. So therefore, mind control is primary. If you control the mind, automatically your senses will be controlled. So body is the hardware, mind is like the software, and the prana is what connects the gross and the subtle. What connects the wings of a plane from the buttons in the cockpit? The pneumatic fluid. So that pneumatic fluid is the pranavayu. So it is neither the subtle or the gross body. It is a different, it's what connects one and the other. So when we are angry, what are we told? Take deep breaths. What happens? Just by regulating your prana, you're able to, by controlling your external, you are able to pacify your mind, which is internal. So pranayam is therefore a very powerful means of regulation, sense regulation. Does that answer?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Got it.
Okay. We can take, I'm too tempted to take one or two more verses because I'm also focused on covering. Let's see what, let's also look at this chart to understand the difference between Sat and Asat, what we discussed. So, you see, Sat, Asat is the body and Sat is the soul. The body is temporary and it is non-existent. It was not always existing and it will not always exist. So it's abhava, its non-existence is in the beginning and in the end. It is only for a certain time that it comes into being. Whereas the soul is eternal, unborn, and Purana. It's coming in the next verse, but it's okay. The body which is Asat cannot be cut. Sorry, the body can be cut, but the soul which is Sat cannot be cut. It's indestructible, indivisible, infinitesimal. Yet, it is pervading throughout the body. The body is subject to 6 changes. The soul is unchanging. There is no vikara. It's stable and it's eternal. So that is what verse 16 is telling us. There is no permanent existence for the body. So don't worry. Do you worry for gravity? It's a law, it's never going to change. Similarly, why should you worry about the eternal nature of the body, which is that it will never permanently exist? Why don't we start accepting it from today onwards, rather than expressing a sudden shock and lamentation when it actually happens? We have to accept it's not in the nature of the body to persist. We have to come to terms with it. And we have to gain assurance and hope from the fact that there is no cessation of existence for the soul. So we have to transfer that identity from the body to the soul. We have to transfer the meaning of our life from the body to the soul. We have to transfer our energies and what we do, how we spend our time and energy from the body to the soul. That is the whole purpose of this study, to distinguish between Sat and Asat. Okay. So Asat is the body. It has no existence. It's bhava. We call bhava rog, or this world is bhava sagar. So bhava means where everything is temporary. So Asat is in that state of bhava. But what is Sata is abhava. There is no non-existence. You remember Sri Krishna also made two negatives when he said in uh, the verse 12, never was there a time when I did not exist. Similarly, for the Sat, there is no bhava, means there is no non-existence, means the soul is ever existing. So this is the conclusion about the two. And it's beautiful, we can understand that a person who has this knowledge about the Swarup of the Ansh, we are the Ansh, we are a part, and Bhagwan is the Anshi, he is the source. So this is the purpose of this study, to distinguish between the conscious Amsha and the conscious Amshi. Okay. So Asat and Sat, that is what we have to understand. And about Avinashi tu Tadvidhi, we have seen Srila Prabhupada's purport here. So, yeah, till the time we don't understand that we are not our body or any identities of the body, we continue our journey in material realm, between heaven and hell. That is all a ride based on our upadhis. So, but the idea is we are not our upadhis. That is what we have to understand, and then we can gain amritatvam, get out of this samsara. There are beautiful verses which are in Srimad Bhagavatam, which also talk of this nature of the soul. Yeah, we have covered all of this. Okay, let's look at one more verse. 18. Antavanti me deha nitya shokta sharirina anashino aprameyasya tasmadyudhyasva bharata. Now, the whole philosophical lecture Sri Krishna is giving, that is metaphysics. What is the soul? Shri Krishna is bringing it back into ethics. Uska karna kya hai? What do I do of that philosophy? You put it into action. Tasmat yudhyasva bharata. Shri Krishna is saying this to get Arjun to perform his duty. The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. So, Arjun, this body is anyways going to die. The body is अंतवन, अंत होने वाला है इसका. So, regardless of your preference, I will fight or I will not fight. Irrespective of that, the nature of the body is to die. Whereas the self is nitya, anashina, and performing dharma will always preserve the self. So, from your identity of your true self comes the action of dharma. Swadharma comes from Swarupa. First, we understand I am a soul, and then we can act according to our dharma. Okay. So, Antavanta means perishable, that is for the body, but the soul is Nitya, it's eternal. It's Anashina, it cannot be destroyed. It's Aprameya. Aprameya means you cannot capture it. Like, I hold an object. That is not how you can capture a soul, like any ordinary measurable object. So Sri Krishna is saying that I'm saying this philosophy to prevent you from escape. So, what is the purpose of the knowledge of the soul? It must change our behavior in this world. It is not about fighting. It is not about becoming violent. Oh no, people make this silly arguments. Oh, if they are not the body, then I can kill their body. It is for Arjun to escape his duty that Shri Krishna is teaching us this. So that applies to all of us according to our situation in Varnashram. If we are a Kshatriya, then we should definitely fight. But if we are not, then it basically means perform your prescribed duty. So it is Shri Krishna is giving this knowledge to Arjun to remove his mistaken justification for not doing dharma. Yeah, so sometimes there are so many philosophies or traditions or gurus who present philosophy to comfort you that, yeah, just do this and you don't need to change your lifestyle. You don't need to do anything differently. Just continue doing what you're doing, but also follow this, become a member, to give this membership fees. That is not the purpose of philosophy or knowledge. Philosophy is meant to guide our daily lives. This help us make choices. That is the purpose of philosophy, to help us choose. And if your guru is saying philosophy is just to give comfort and not help you make choices, then it is incomplete. Yeah. Philosophy gives us insight. Insight on what? How to live and act in this world, how to accept the consequences of my action. So that is the purpose of Jnana, to help us perform our karma in a spirit of Vairagya. So we'll talk about karma in the coming chapters. But Sri Krishna is basically motivating Arjun to fight here. Okay, so we'll conclude here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna. Yes, you have a question?
Prabhuji just had a question. What is the meaning of avyaya in 2.17? I didn't get it.
Avyaya, yeah. Anything that doesn't diminish, वो कम नहीं होता है. That is avyaya. It is
Okay.
eternal.
Yeah, and
And it
avyaya.
is
That. Okay, okay.
avyaya. Avyayasyasya. Imperishable or immutable. That is a better word. There is no diminution. It always remains the same, no matter what happens to it. That is avyaya.
Mhm.
We are going to see this attribute about Bhagwan also. Krishna is also avyaya.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but that is later. Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
So it is said that only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as pervading Vishnu Tattva. That is mean only insane person can think Atma as Paramatma, Prabhu.
Correct. That's right.
As Paramatma having an all pervading power.
Right.
Does this line indicates Advaitins?
Yes, it does. So here we are trying to understand that I cannot feel the pain and pleasures of somebody sitting next to me. I cannot pervade their body. How can I pervade the entire universe? I am not Paramatma, Baba. I am just a simple Anu Atma. Because my experience is limited to my embodiment. So that clearly shows, even by empirical observation, you can see your scope, your influence, your perception is limited. How can you claim to be Paramatma, who is Sarvagya, who can feel everyone's pains and pleasure? So that is why it is said only an insane person will make that claim.
Out of this discussion, I have some small doubt. So as we claimed, we are from uh, Dvaita, Chincha Beda. We are having some discipline session. So does Advaitiyans also have some discipline session parampara? Does they have?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do have a parampara coming from Sripad Shankaracharya. That's
Yes.
the interpretation. So he has presented a bhashya. A bhashya is my interpretation. So his interpretation of Vedanta is monistic. But that is not the only interpretation. Ramanujacharya has his, Madhvacharya has his, Srila Jiva Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have presented Achintya Veda. So we follow the Achintya Veda. So it is not the only interpretation. All paramparas have their interpretation.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.